Welcome, everybody, to the Monthly Movie Dispatch. We get together every month and we talk about what we've seen and what we recommend and possibly what to avoid. Wow, botched that one. What separates us from the other 100,000 other movie-related shows that we're high school friends who've been talking about movies basically forever, and we'd be doing it even if no one was listening. So I'm Nick Moffat. I'm here today with Derek. What's your deal?
Yo.
Sean Bowlby.
Hey.
And Brandon Bowlby.
How's it going?
Well, you guys gave me some long pauses there. I wasn't sure you were actually there or not. But cool. I'm glad that you're here. We have a lot to talk about. Full disclosure, I was actually kind of... February's kind of a weird month with movies and stuff. Just in terms of timelines, a lot of other shows have already put out their end of the year episodes, and we like to make sure we see all the movies before we do our top 10 episode. Just so our lists are authentic. We're not critics. We don't typically get the press release screenings unless we find them underground. And I was kind of like, maybe we shouldn't do this one. Maybe we should just do the top 10, just skip February. And Sean, credit to you. You were like, hey, these 4 movies are going to be good. We should talk about the movies that are going to be good. And you're not wrong. We picked 4 movies for this month like normal, but all 4 of them, I'm psyched to talk about them. Like, I think all 4 of them are pretty darn great. I also want to say up top that this is going to be our last episode of the season before our top 10 episode, like I just said, and then we're going to be changing the format all around. So we're actually going to be switching from a monthly show to a weekly show. So we'll be covering 1 movie a week, and we'll get into more nitty-gritty details on that later, but stay tuned for that. Starting in March, we're going to be a weekly show. So thumbs up. We're pretty excited. Anyway, I feel like, guys, let's just jump into it. We got some 4 great movies to talk about. The first one is Brandon's pick. Brandon, do you want to set the table for this one?
Yeah. I liked what you were saying earlier, Nick, like with these 4 movies. I don't know if we've had an episode with this caliber of movies all the way through, at least on
definitely
my
not
end.
This year.
Right? Yeah, definitely not this year. All 4 of these really, really impressed me and were really great to watch. And the first one we're going to talk about is Sound of Metal. A heavy metal drummer's life is thrown into freefall when he begins to lose his hearing. I actually first heard about this movie. Like, I feel like you hear about all these movies last minute, like right as they're coming out, just 'cause it's been such a weird year. I didn't hear about this movie until really the Slash Filmcast. And they threw it on their top 10 list, and what was it? 3 of them put it as their number 1.
2. I just listened to it.
3.
It's two at number 1 and 1 at number 4.
Yeah, I was just like, holy shit! Like, not only do I know so little about this movie, but people are now gushing about it all of a sudden. So I'm really glad.
The thing with that is that, like, the indies, you don't know how good they're going to be until they actually come out, and then people see them, and it's like, whoa, that was something.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Directors. Yeah, you don't have that, you don't know the director, you don't know the writer. It's just this small budget movie that comes out and really explodes. This was a really powerful, very beautiful film. This movie takes you on a very high emotional roller coaster through it, and I really felt it, along with a lot of the other movies we watched on this list. I think one of the cool things that stood out to me in this movie when thinking back on it is the journey that this character goes on throughout the stages of this film. It's really broken up into this interesting 3 acts in my head of him on the road touring, and him learning about him experiences loss of hearing, all the way to him on the farm. Kind of this big middle part of him growing and as a person. And then the ending, which I thought was absolutely perfect, of where it kind of goes and you jump into the future a little bit, and you really see a different life in the end. And I loved the way it wrapped up. I think this movie is full of really profound acting all across the board. Riz Ahmed is amazing in this movie. It's pretty crazy. And throughout, and the whole cast in its entirety, like the really caring mentor that he gains halfway through the movie. Maybe one of you guys can look up who it is.
Paul Ratchie.
Paul Ratchie. That character is so well done and so realistic. And the amount of like studying he had to, I don't know, maybe I was already a part of this actor's life, but he did a fantastic job as kind of the mentor role in this film.
Real quick, a legend has it there were a few big name actors who were up for that part, but they wanted to cast someone who was fluent in sign language and part of the deaf community, and so because they wanted it to be as authentic as possible. And I mean, he killed it. I agree completely. Like, he was phenomenal.
It almost feels like documentary at times when they're in that facility for deaf people. And I mean, everyone's talking a lot about the sound mixing. Really creative, interesting choices for how they were going to show this to the audience throughout the course of the movie. It's not just one full thing the whole time. You're not just like experiencing deafness the entire movie. It's like very poignant parts throughout, and it goes back and forth. And then what happens at the end with the medical device, it's just like so perfect the way they have you experience sound in this movie. Really great choice. And again, like, I thought the ending was just absolutely nailed it. Not only the final like minute of what it means to him on his journey, but what came before the previous 10 minutes as well, with the other characters in the film, I thought was really, really perfect and really beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
You're here.
Yeah, dude. Great movie. Did you relate at all as a drummer yourself?
Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the drumming. I loved that, like, you could tell the writer or director of this film got like the music scene really well, and the music they were actually playing was like this really gritty, interesting, experimental metal. Like, I felt like I was listening to like Daughter's new album. And it was really fucking cool, like something I would want to listen to. Well, and then what's that?
I was just gonna say, like, it was only the two of them. Like, it was like him, the drummer, and then the lead singer, and it, like, they were in a relationship, a female, you know, and they were a woman. They were like together, and then later on, when he's at the farm, it like shows what she's been doing musically while he's been away, and she's like just doing this experimental, like, weird noise stuff at like an art gallery.
I'm guessing it's like experimental metal on the floor, like sitting down, and all these people around her with cameras. Like,
although
they just really nailed the whole scene.
You couldn't hear it because he at that point couldn't hear it.
Yeah, but that's what I was imagining. I just loved that they made them actual artists. They weren't just playing like some bland metal that people who haven't researched the genre would just think of. It was like really artful, experimental metal that would have a cult following, and that they could actually like travel across the world to play. So that was cool.
Yeah. Did we've all been in bands here. How are your guys' hearing? Do you guys have any hearing?
I think I have a little ringing tinnitus, but nothing severe.
Yeah, I've had some pretty serious tinnitus. You know, nothing that is life changing in any way, but I definitely every once in a while get I think in the scene where they're like setting up the merch table and everything,
I know exactly,
and it's like the first time
that
happens.
Before.
That definitely happens to me. Usually it's almost always only in one ear at a time, and it always comes back. But that definitely happens to me somewhat frequently, and that scene was horrifying. Like, my heart started racing because I knew, you know, what the movie was, you know, where it was going and everything, and it was
and
like
him like trying to stay
really
calm while it's happening.
Yeah,
like not trying to freak out.
But yeah, it was this movie really got to me for sure. It's like kind of haunted my thoughts in the last like couple days. I watched it yesterday, and it was like it was the last thing I thought of before I went to bed, and the first thing I thought of when I woke up this morning. And like I was making dinner last night, and it like just I kind of flashed a couple of scenes through my head, and it just like stopped me in my tracks, and I just had to like take a minute to just process the movie. It's I'm totally on board like with everything you said, Brandon. Like
what are the scenes that stand out to you, or
honestly,
haunt you?
There's two scenes I keep going through in my head. One is the scene, I guess titular scene that you could say is the one where it's just him and that deaf kid sitting on the slide.
Oh man, yeah.
I wanted to bring that up too.
And
yeah, that scene's great.
Yeah.
You know that's
kind of a beautiful scene.
It's such a beautiful scene, and I think so beautifully captures what the movie is all about. And like
I loved about
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what I loved about that scene was how like the movie had like surprisingly excellent cinematography too. And like that scene was shot with so much intimacy, and it was like this moment where it was like close up on him, close up on the slide that he was playing on, close up of the sad kid listening, his ear, and then like it did a wide shot back, and you could just like they were having this intimate moment of like feeling music, and then it cut back, and it's just like but like it's like. It's very quiet for everyone else. It's like it just.
Yeah, it's I think that perfectly captures like what the movie's all about.
And being a drummer too, like that's just such a habit of all drummers is to do that on their lap or on their desk and have other people be annoyed. But to have it in that setting, just on this metal slide that could resonate that sound to the boy's ears.
One of the only things he can hear.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
Yeah.
This movie is deeply sad to me. Like this movie was like deeply like distressing and sad and frustrating and just like it was really hard to watch a little bit just because just seeing someone whose whole life is basically being shattered. And he's it's like out of his control, and he has to decide what to do, or just go with it. Like it's just that whole dilemma, that initial dilemma that he goes through is like it's so deeply sad to me and
he's like
scary.
Recovering addict and stuff. It's like
right, and this movie. Speaking of that, I mean, like this movie operates on so many different levels, because. Like for instance, like he starts later on in the movie, he starts portraying like addict behavior, like impulse decision making, and that
selling
that's
off
like
all
something
of his belongings and
right. But he wasn't doing it for drugs, so he like wasn't thinking that it was like anything wrong. And the guy Joe was calling him out on it, and he had this look like I don't know what you're talking about. Like I'm not using, but it was like it's kind of like the thing of addicts it's bigger than just like your thing of choice. There's all this other stuff that kind of goes along with it. There or these or the fact that you can be addicted to other things in your life. I just thought that was like something that the movie like didn't necessarily need to have in there, but it was in there, and it was like that's something else for people to grab onto and like really think about. Like that's something for like all of us to like really think about. And I also like have to say that the deaf culture that was represented in this movie was very, very accurate. Like I watched it with Shannon, and she majored in ASL studies for her bachelor's degree, and that's what she kept saying through the movie. Like the games that they were playing are all games that she had played before. The whole dilemma of whether or not whether or not he should stay with the deaf community or get cochlear implants, like that's like a real debate that people in deaf culture grapple with. A lot of it has to do with like, hey, if I can get mechanically better, why shouldn't I? Or, you could, or you know, you also could just embrace the culture that is like a family and very tight knit, and you know, learn to live your life to the fullest in a different way. But all of that was like represented with such accuracy and authenticity that it just was great. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I agree with everything you guys have said so far, but I think while it is sad, I found the movie really inspiring though too. Like in a very like it feels like it's a pretty positive movie for how dramatic it is, and like the characters are constantly trying to better themselves, and they're making, you know, they're letting, you know, we see all their emotion and stuff, but they're still making like good choices and like being smart and like trying to better themselves pretty much throughout the whole movie. You know, there's different things like getting the implants and stuff that, you know, I guess like you said, that's a debate. So it's kind of your decision on whether or not that's like a positive thing or not. But, yeah, I found that aspect of it really inspiring. And
yeah, I know what you mean. Like the to me, the ending felt resolved.
Yeah.
And
It's more
uplifting
about
in some ways.
growth and learning to, you know, find that place of happiness and contentment. A lot more than just, you know, a lot of movies just revel in the depressing aspects of it, and I don't think that was this movie at all.
And especially with his girlfriend too, I thought they had a really like kind of clever and beautiful way of showing the resolution between those two characters.
I really loved how much you understand about their relationship and them as people, especially the girlfriend, because you don't get to spend very much time with her, but you just through, you know, characterization and a lot of little beautiful moments, you get to learn so much about who they are and what they meant to each other, and how you know, you can like put together a whole relationship in your head just from these small little moments without even really saying anything specific.
Little details too. I mean, Shannon pointed out that there was one day he was wearing a shirt, and then the next day she was wearing the same shirt. So they share clothes, you know, and that's like, that says a lot about their relationship.
Yeah.
You know, you pick up on those little things, even if you don't notice them, like those things, like you can just feel that they're extremely tight knit. And I agree, guys, like the way the way they resolve, I don't really want to talk about the ending, but you know, it was really well done. It was pretty creative and special. You know, it felt so true to, you know, how things are. Things change and people move on, and you know, you can give each other hugs and kisses and just you know, thankful for the time that you had together.
The way
and stuff.
That's the other scene that has been getting to me every, you know, seemingly few hours since I saw the movie, is the scene in the bedroom, and yeah, just the way that plays out, and you know, again, so much is said.
It's just a really clever writing.
It's and nothing is said. It's it just, you know, they just are so in control of the way they're telling this story, and they're, you know, through the performances, through the way that the scene plays out, it's so brilliantly put together. It's
yeah, agreed.
Really impressive.
I think to tie a few things that a few of you have said, Derek wrote the words like the setting here. I don't know if he mentioned that, but I think that's like a really big part of the movie to make in its uniqueness, is like, this isn't just any normal guy. Like they really put you in a place and in this character's head, with him being a musician on the road, poor, an addict, like in a metal band. Like all this is just so much atmosphere for this character. And in the first like 20 minutes of this film, you're just learning so much about who this person is, and, you know, his exercising, his diet, and like how kind of controlled he is over his life, even though he is just living in a van. And
which I assume
they just
is,
have a really good setup of the setting of all this backstory between,
which I assume is kind of recovering addict behavior too. Just like, you know, feeling like your life is so out of control for so long, and then you just have to take complete control over it, and have a routine,
right?
And just be really diligent about keeping occupied, focusing that behavior instead of into your addiction into other behaviors. There's so much complexity to this movie. You could get into pretty much any point in the movie and write an essay about it.
Yeah, really, it's like really one of those movies that were like, it's like one of those movies that like, like should be remembered. You know, it feels like I don't know. I'm curious. Like, this year is so weird with the Academy Awards and stuff. Like, I'm wondering if it's like going to get like nominated for a bunch of stuff, because it clearly should be. You know, obviously like sound mixing and
maybe
acting,
The Prom will be nominated.
Best director.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think the Academy Awards carries more weight and respectability than the Golden Globes, because The Prom and Sing or Song or whatever that, you know, like all these. I mean, we don't really want to talk about the Golden Globe nominations, but I don't think Sound of Metal got nominated for anything for the Golden Globes, and it's like, you know, I wonder if, you know, I just wonder if a movie like this will, you know, reach like far-reaching audiences. You know, it's like it's on Amazon Prime. Most people have Prime. You know, people should watch this movie because it's authentic and real and true, you know, and it's really, really well done. Anything else you guys want to add about this movie?
That's it.
Yeah, I feel like we could gush about it forever.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, that was Sound of Metal. Like I just said, it's on Amazon Prime, so highly recommend it. Sound mixing alone is fantastic. So cool. Well, let's go on to the next pick. That is Sean's pick. Sean, do you want to cap us off with this one?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to cap us off. I'll kick us
Start
off.
us off.
But
kick us off.
Yeah.
Sorry. Cap off.
Cap off the yeah.
You want to pop the cap off for
anyways,
this one?
My movie pick was Nomadland, starring Frances McDormand. And the IMDb summary is: after losing everything in the Great Recession, a woman embarks on a journey through the American West, living as a van-dwelling modern-day nomad. I also want to point out that actually, I just before this episode, I was reading about this movie on Wikipedia, and it called it a neo-Western. Which I didn't think of the movie at all as
the locations. A lot of Western locations.
Yeah, the locations, the kind of nomad, the moving through the American West. You know,
that's interesting to think about, because I mean, I consider, like, you know, No Country for Old Men or There Will Be Blood neo westerns, but like even like First Cow, I think is a western.
I definitely don't wholly agree with that, but I think that's a really interesting kind of take on the movie. But
what's hard is that she's moving around so much. I mean, like, I feel like it's not like, I feel like most westerns, they're like going somewhere, but they are usually trying to get somewhere. And in this movie, she's not necessarily trying to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not. But I mean, overall, this is a super interesting and unique movie. And it's like based on a nonfiction book, and it's a nonfiction book about the nomad lifestyle in America, and it was adapted into a screenplay featuring and casting fictionalized versions of the real life people who the book was about. So many of the characters in this movie are actually the real life people who have been living this lifestyle. So like Linda May, Swanky, and Bob Wells are all like those are real people who really live like this. And I think Bob Wells has he's kind of developed a following for this lifestyle, and he kind of plays that role in the movie of bringing these people together and kind of teaching them about this.
He was the guy that was like talking to everyone.
Yeah. He's like kind of teaching everyone about this alternate lifestyle.
I didn't know that specifically for this movie, Sean, but the director Chloe Zhao is known for that with her last movie, The Writer. She did a lot of the same thing. And people talked a lot about that with The Writer. And so I thought when I was watching this movie, I was like, this seems so real.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally it. I couldn't find any specifics, but I kind of assume that, what you get out of this from that is, along with Frances McDormand doing her, typical thing, you have some incredible, honest performances with these people, and I assume they're kind of telling their own story in those like really intimate scenes that almost while I was watching it, I felt like we're bordering on like interview scenes where Frances McDormand just kind of sits down with these real life people with the cameras rolling and kind of play out this scene, and she's just kind of interviewing them about their life and what they've gone through. And so they're like, at least the feeling that you get from the movie is that these stories are very much real, and the emotions that they're feeling are very real and authentic. And I've just never really seen a movie done like that, except for maybe like Borat, But
this is like the reverse Borat in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Sean, I thought that. We were looking into that too after we watched this movie, and I could have swore that guy that you just mentioned. What was his name?
Bob Wells.
Yeah, Bob Wells. Like, I could have swore that he was basically playing himself. Like that whole thing.
Yeah.
He was the guy who he organized. From what I understood, he actually does organize festivals for people who are trying to live out of their. Of the car, and he like helps organize how to like show people how to do it, but it's like he's like really well known in that kind of thing.
I think he has like a YouTube channel, and I think he's written a few books about it, and
wait, granted, Chloe,
so are you saying the real people played
they played
fictionalized
themselves.
Versions of themselves.
Yes, correct.
Right, like there's only like two or three real actors in this movie. Like there's obviously Frances McDormand, and then there's David Strathairn, and I think there might be one other person that's a real actor.
The sister, probably.
There are a few.
Yeah, but if you look at the credits, it's like most people are just like playing themselves, and her next movie is the MCU Eternals, and rumor has it she cast some real Eternals for that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, low hanging fruit there. Anyway, Sean, continue.
So this movie just has so much to say about America and kind of the traps of American capitalism, and so much to say about like the people that it leaves behind, and it shows their story in a really poignant and personal and individualized way. And it shows, how these market crashes and recessions and how market fluctuations affect real people in dramatic ways. And it gets really into loss as well, like the way that capitalism and our society can just uproot someone's life, and just and about how people are forced to pick up the pieces of their lives and kind of deal with it. And I think Frances McDormand portrays such a interesting and complex and strong character. I'd like to hear your guys' take on her character. But my takeaway was kind of like a sense of strength, not only of sadness and feeling what she has lost in her life, but also a lot of strength and her ability to endure what has been thrown at her is pretty incredible, really inspirational. And
yeah, there's a lot in there. I also liked her just strong personality traits that she gave her character, like kind of her sassiness in a way, or where she's very forthcoming to people. And that comes out at a lot of different points throughout the movie. And I thought that was a really good choice. It just like made her feel more full and real. She wasn't just some quiet person who like never spoke, because they could easily have fallen back into that type of character. But she had a good amount of like personality there when it needed to be. And that was great.
Yeah, she definitely wasn't the silent, like the driver in Drive. She wasn't like kind of someone you're supposed to project onto. She's definitely has a full and complete complex character underneath that quiet exterior.
And while she was strong and living the best life she could, there was a lot of sadness there and a lot of anxiety there. And there's some really great scenes that showed that, like when she couldn't sleep in the bed and she had to go back out to her like freezing cold trailer, and the comfort she felt when she finally got back to being alone. It showed a lot.
Yeah. I mean, part of that I think was that, she felt a little uncomfortable with David Strathairn's family and how welcoming they were, I think. And I think a lot of her thing was tied to her old life and how she loved her old life, and she was still in love with her husband. I think that, like, for her it was like she was still married, because David Strathairn clearly had a thing for her. He wanted her around. He liked her, and she liked him, but as a friend. And that's like how she was, where she just was like she couldn't let go of what she had before, because it was everything for her. And Mia Shannon plays this game from this podcast that she listens to called Las Culturitas, and the game is actor or I guess it's actress or a star, and so you name an actor or an actress, and are they an actor or are they or are they a star? Because there's different qualities in there, but like Frances McDormand, like capital A actress, a true actress is able to poop in a tiny van and make it super believable, and like pull her pants down, just like poop in a bucket,
She's
like
playing her
right
flute.
on camera.
That feeling she got immediately, I was just like, oh no. Like,
yeah, like she was just like sitting like reading or something, and then she was like, oh no, I need poop, and then she pulled out a bucket and just pooped in a bucket. It's like, yep, she's an actor, like big time. And yeah, I mean, Sean, when you said typical before, I hope what you meant by that is typical in that everything she does is amazing, because I feel like she's got range. I mean, compare this role to, not Hail Caesar, but what's the Burn After Reading? It's like, she can do anything. Like she's one of the best. She is one of the best.
I meant by typical, her typical thing, I meant like delivering an incredible, performance, and with depth and complexity. And
yeah.
You mentioned this a little bit with the Western stuff, Nick, or Sean. But I thought the like cinematography of the location and the setting was just really impressive. I remember, and what it also meant to the movie, like there was a lot of shots or montages of her like just experiencing nature and feeling more connected to the earth, and how that like got her through this stage of her life. All up until including until the ending, when she goes home, and it's this dumpy old, like torn down, like small time, like house. And it's kind of sad, but then she opens the back door and the camera like lifts up, and you just see the most like beautiful landscape that she had in her life behind that house that she got to wake up to every morning with her husband.
Yeah.
And just that shot, like she just kind of wanders off and it doesn't say anything, but the camera lifts and floats up to the air. And it was just like, no wonder this meant so much to her. Like she had this beautiful life here, or she must have had this beautiful life here. I really have to mention the specific scene with her friend that is moving to Alaska to live out the last few months of her life. And it makes so much sense, you saying that this is a real, like that was probably a real person. And I don't know how much of exactly what she was saying, like with her time left on this earth, was real or not. But that monologue that she gave, like, absolutely destroyed me when it was happening.
For sure.
Like,
I think that was Swanky.
I was a mess.
Talking about,
And the words she was saying and the way the cadence of her voice trying to explain what life meant to her, or those moments in her life meant to her, was so astounding. And I can't believe they captured that on film.
And then again, when that all kind of comes back around in the end, around the fire, which may have.
I was absolutely a mess at that moment.
I don't know, but
great.
that may have even been a real
video, right?
a real remembrance of her. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It all definitely could have been. And when I was watching that, I was wondering if it was, and that just made it all the more, powerful.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's something. Yeah, I didn't even think that could have been a real. Wow. Yeah.
I didn't know any of that, like before you just told me about like these actors and stuff, or the not actors being in the movie. That kind of changes a lot of it contextually. And this movie is kind of interesting because I work with a guy that was a hobo for like 5 years by choice. Like he just wanted to not have any personal possessions and just like ride around on train cars and just like make ends meet with like the minimal things possible for a long time. And so it was just kind of fun to talk to him about this movie. And like, there's a quote in the movie that I've literally heard him say, and I was like, I had to tell him after I watched the movie because I was like, oh my God, where she's like talking to her niece, I think. She's like, Mommy says you're homeless. She's like, I'm not homeless, I'm just houseless, or something like that. I've literally said that before, that exact line. That's probably like a common line, but yeah, it was a really great movie all around.
I mean, so Derek, I mean, I feel like this isn't your typical, like, kind of movie. You know, I mean, no offense or anything. I just feel like you don't typically, like, gravitate towards, like, this sort of, like, slow, like, meandering, like, you know, it's kind of a hangout movie in a lot of ways. Like, you know, like, did you, was this one particularly, like, well done for you? Or, like, did you connect with it? Like, what, I don't know.
I mean, you can't argue it's not like a really well done movie. And it was just visually, it's an awesome movie to watch. It just looks great all the time. And I mean, Frances McDormand's always entertaining to watch. She's so engaging constantly. So she really could pull me through that kind of movie. And yeah, this isn't normally something I'm that into. And I thought it was really good. But, you know, it's not, I don't know if it's going to make on like my top 10 kind of thing, but yeah, it's definitely not my cup of tea, but I was surprised how much I ended up enjoying it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I not that this isn't my typical cup of tea, but I think it was, for as kind of slow and meandering as it was, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I thought like the constant change of scenery, you know, constantly meeting new people and talking to new people and moving around and seeing what all these different situations she found herself in. I thought that was, you know, kind of fun to watch. And
years go by in this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
And all that helps the pacing for sure.
Yeah. It feels like it's constantly moving for sure. And,
yeah. I mean, you know, this movie is my cup of tea. You know, like I love this type of movie. Like I love I love a movie where the drama happens off screen. You know, like the movie, like all the sad stuff really happened before the movie started. You know, like the first thing in the movie is the title sequence of, you know, there was this town, and it was a mining town, and then the mine went under, and then the town stopped being a zip code. Like they lost its zip code, and like that alone, you're just like, okay, well that sucks. But, you know, there could have been a whole movie about that, you know, and then there could have been a whole movie about her husband dying. But instead, like, this movie is the aftermath of someone just, like, figuring out what they want to do next and also just being lost and, yeah, surviving. Yeah. And it's, like, it's meandering. But, yeah, I agree. I don't think it's slow, like, hardly at all. I think, like, the pacing is actually, like, really quick, you know, not like fast, you know, it's not like it's action packed or anything, but in terms of like a hangout movie without any drama, you know, it's pretty it moves, you know, and I guess that's location to location and people to people and stuff, but you know, it kind of reminded me of like Patterson in a lot of ways, where like was my favorite movie back in 2016, where like, you know, that movie had literally no drama. Like the most drama in that was like the dog was knocking over the mailbox a little bit, but this movie definitely had a little more drama because she was actually trying to survive. But I don't know, I never actually felt like she was like in danger, you know, of not surviving. Yeah, you know, she was like pretty on top of it the whole time.
Yeah.
There was that point where, you know, she was at a gas station.
Danger of losing anything.
Like she was at that gas station and the worker came out and was like, hey, you know, there's a church down the street that'll take people in. And she was like, no, I'm fine. You know, it's going to be cold, but, you know, it'll be negative 20 degrees, but, you know, I'll be okay. And she was okay. And, you know, there's definitely like there was like loneliness and like angst and, you know, sadness in that lifestyle. But yeah, there was like hardly any drama, and you know, I was all for that. I thought this was great. I loved this movie. Yeah, pretty fantastic. Yeah. Any other scenes you guys want to bring up? Anything else? You know, anything specific? No,
brought up my specifics.
Yeah, I mean, just all those scenes where she's talking to the real people are worth, you know, the price of the ticket alone.
Yeah, I mean, this movie too. It's going to be on Hulu by the time this movie airs. So, or by the time this podcast airs. So, you know, if you have Hulu, I highly recommend watching. I think it's in theaters too. I think this is going to be an Academy Awards movie for sure. I mean,
of all the movies we're talking about, even though this is very small, I feel like this is the one that's for sure breaking out in the indie word of mouth.
Yeah. Just, especially just with a big star like Frances McDormand. I mean, she's bound to get Best Actress. And
a big star, you say, Nick?
a big actress. Now? Like, no, she's an actress. Capital A. Cool. Well then, yeah. I mean, we can move on to the next movie. Gosh, there was something else I wanted to bring up with this movie, but I think I'm just blanking on it. So, yeah, let's just move on to the next one. So, Derek, I think the next movie is your pick.
It is
another movie that's not a Derek movie.
Yeah. So my pick was Minari. The plot synopsis is, it's the 1980s, and David, a 7-year-old Korean-American boy, is faced with new surroundings and a different way of life when his father, Jacob, moves their family from the West Coast to rural Arkansas. His mother, Monica, is this is really long. It's like
is that from Letterboxd? Because Letterboxd plot summaries are kind of
here's
fucked up sometimes.
IMDb.
Yeah, if you have it,
IMDb summary is a Korean family starts a farm in 1980s Arkansas.
Right, that
perfect.
That's what the movie's about.
That's all you need with this plot.
Yeah.
I didn't know the son's the main character. That's what that plot
I kind of wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that too.
Okay, well, we'll get into it. So I chose this movie because it was getting some really good buzz. Stephen Yeun is in it, and he's He's pretty great. I've been seeing him in a lot of just like random stuff lately, and he's really great.
He's in Okja.
What, the Burning?
Yeah, he's in Okja. I didn't see Burning.
He's
but I
in
know
Walking
he's in there.
Dead.
Walking
Glenn
Dead.
from Walking Dead.
I watched this movie.
And the
horror
Buzz
movie
you're
at the
referring
end of
to
it.
being 2020 Sundance Film Festival winner.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And
Sundance is going on right now.
Yeah,
Or
which is
maybe it
funny.
was last week,
God.
but like Sundance is going on right now, 2021, and whatever wins this year for Sundance, we'll see it in 12 months,
Yeah.
basically.
Sometime, but then there's been a few Sundance movies that went to Netflix like a week later.
Right. I mean, it's all about distribution and stuff.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
It seems like the ones that like win come out like, at the end of the year because they want to like do the award circuit and try to get some awards again and stuff.
Sundance, they haven't announced this year's winner yet?
No, it's currently happening.
Okay.
Yeah, Sundance is
Somebody
going on right now.
somebody broke a record already, I know, for the amount of money they
Selling
paid.
the movie for
Yeah.
like 35 million
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
to Apple or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, this so that's why we chose this movie for this month. The movie is about Sean, okay, so I got off track.
I feel like, Derek, it's almost
Pull
like
up your
unfair
notes,
for
Derek.
you to like.
I just
feel like
got
it's like
kind of lost.
And no, it's okay. It's okay. I just want to say really quick. It's just funny because going into this episode, there were 4 big movies.
Yeah.
And like you kind of just like got slotted with this one a little bit. And I would say this isn't normally your choice. Like the question I asked you on the last episode, I feel like could be asked again to you. I mean, this is a pretty simple movie about an Asian family starting a farm, and that's pretty much the movie. The grandma comes and lives with her, and they drink Mountain Dew.
This one I liked a lot.
Spring
though.
water.
I was
It's
very
spring water.
engaged in this whole movie from start to finish. Like, it was just an interesting premise, like an Asian family, and I don't know like what the politics were necessarily with Asians in America during like the Reagan era, but an Asian family moving to Arkansas just sounds like an interesting premise. And they moved from California where they were kind of happy, but struggling. And the father wanted to live his dream of starting his own farm and grow like a lot of Korean vegetables and stuff like that. And that was just kind of a fascinating concept. And then see how they relate or how they kind of fit in Arkansas is also just like an interesting thing. They're what are they I think they say what it's called, but their like occupation, their day job is
They are
sexing
yes.
chickens. Yeah, chickens. So they just see.
Didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Which is determining the sex of chickens,
Right.
baby chicks.
Because the men, they just get thrown in the
Because
fire.
you only eat female chickens, and the males are probably too much of a hassle. So right?
Yeah. So he's like an all-star chicken sexer, and he moves to Arkansas where he's just like the cool kid on the block, like sorting out chickens so fast.
These things are so subtle in the movie, Nick.
Yeah.
Or Derek. You're acting like it's this rom-com.
Anyways, so what I really liked about the movie was like they did a lot of just like interesting characters that I haven't really seen before. Like there is a stereotypical Asian grandparent like that exists in American cinema and like a lot of movies we've seen, and it was cool for them to take like this grandma character and like even to the kids, she's like, you're not a grandma. Like the way she acts around them, and like she like loves wrestling and like
Grandmas bake cookies. They don't watch wrestling.
And they don't swear.
Although my
like-
grandma watched wrestling, so grandmas watch wrestling.
Yeah. But that whole dynamic was really interesting and engaging. And that, I don't remember the actor's name, but the religious guy, Will Patton.
Been around forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Seen him
was
so many
Remember
movies.
the Titans.
Yeah. He was so good in this movie. And he's just such a unique guy too. Like like to everybody in the movie. Like everyone looks at him like he's like a weirdo because he's just such a different, like super religious, but also just like the friendliest guy, and like just wants to help out. And like, you know, he's so excited to watch these vegetables grow and stuff like that. And yeah, it was really just that the characters like carry this movie so well. They found ways to just make every scene about farming or walking, or just, you know, everything's really interesting consistently. And I really liked the evolution of like this whole family's dynamic from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. Like they're constantly getting hit with different problems, and you know, they kind of implode and like fight about it, but then they keep coming to a resolution and finding a way to like move forward and try to make things better. And yeah, like all three of these movies that we've talked about so far kind of share this optimistic quality about them, where there's just like, you know, all this bad stuff that happens, there's always like this glimmer of hope, which I really like. Like looking back on these three, it just like, it feels good to see like dramas like this that are so optimistic, I guess, because it's so easy to get to go the other direction. And then the other thing that works really well about this movie, I think, is the constant dread of the child's like heart murmur. Like I was gonna mention it earlier, but since we hadn't talked about this yet, I didn't want to make the comparison. But in Sound of Metal, like you kind of always had like right behind everything that's going, this fear that he's gonna fall back into like drugs and stuff like that. And I think that having that fear there, like at least for me, like really helps me engage in the story that they're telling a lot more. I think that's what stuff like Nomadland is a little bit harder, because there's not really a whole lot of fear, or there's, you know, she proved to us pretty early on that she's fine and she's going to make it through, you know, no matter what comes at her. But yeah, there's like a couple moments in this movie that I'm just like getting really stressed out, like seeing like when the kid, I think he gives the grandma the pea and then he runs out of the house and like goes running out to the woods, and like he just keeps going and going, and you're just like, all of a sudden that dread just starts notching up, and you're like, oh shit, like this is where the big horrible thing's gonna happen. But then it never does. It's just like, okay, like some things are just like existential fears that we have to deal with in life, you know.
I mean, how brilliant of a scene that was that though. Like you're right. I mean, you're totally right. Like that was disgusting and like horrifying, her drinking the pee, and then because, you know, they've been drinking Mountain Dew the whole movie, and Mountain Dew looks like pee, like
and then I didn't make that connection.
And then, well, she tells him to go get some of that spring water, the mountain water, and then he goes running out, and then Derek, you're totally right. Like, is this where, like, you know, they're out in the middle of nowhere, like an ambulance isn't going to be able to come, and then he ends up just getting in trouble for it, you know, and his dad's like, okay, go get the stick, and Grandma starts freaking out. Grandma's going like, it wasn't even that bad. I mean, like, you know, I drank a little pee, so what? Like, you don't have to beat the kid, you know. It was
like
funny.
One plot point. There's so many great character dynamics and interactions that just keep going back and forth throughout all of it. That's really brilliant.
I mean, that's really what carries this movie is the incredibly complex and interesting dynamics of the family. I feel like you could, with any pairing of characters, you could write an essay on the depth of that relationship, like with the boy and the daughter, the father and the wife, and I think really the heart of the movie is the little boy and the grandma's relationship. I think that is really what holds the movie together for me. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I felt like that the boy was the main character of the movie. And I kind of, in my head as I was watching it, I was kind of comparing it to the Tree of Life, Terrence Malick's Tree of Life, where it almost felt, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of cinematography, or the way it's shot is similar, or was kind of reminiscent of a Terrence Malick movie, just like the wide, very natural landscape, steady cam shots, and just of like the dad just holding the soil in his hand, or that, a lot of that kind of stuff, but also just the way that I guess they told the story of the boy, for me, felt a lot like someone maybe even remembering or recalling a childhood experience, just like this one summer where his family moved to Arkansas, and kind of the fears and the way that he experienced that life. And so I think like the thing that held the movie together for me was that relationship with the boy and the grandma, where he starts out just kind of hating her because, first of all, he's afraid of her coming in the first place, because he thinks that she's going to make her parents fight, or he thinks that she's going to make his parents fight. And then when she gets there, he doesn't like her because she's not a real grandma. And he has to sleep in the same room as her, and she smells and she snores while he's trying to sleep and everything. But then like the way that relationship develops and kind of its ultimate conclusion is so beautiful and heartwarming, and
that
kind of adorable. And
between the two, when it's literally like almost turns into like a typical movie climax of when the boy has to catch up to the grandma, the wandering grandma. Like, it's like such an actual small moment, because like he's only like running like 20 feet or 20 meters or something. Yeah. But the way it's shot and the amount that it means, to what all the boy's gone through, and then him connecting with his grandma was really great.
Yeah, definitely. And then like, no spoilers, but the scene with him in bed, and they're talking about how he's afraid of dying from his heart murmur, and the gut punch of that, the conclusion to that is it really got to me. It was it's a really powerful scene.
This movie's great. This movie's really, really great. Yeah, I agree. Those scenes were pretty fantastic. I loved what you said about the character dynamics. I felt like that echoed in the plot too. Like everything that happened in the plot was like related directly to the character dynamics, and even with the ultimate conclusion, the climax, and like what happened to the grandma, I felt like, I don't really want to get into the specifics of it because we're not going to do spoilers for this movie, but I felt like it was like metaphorical on some level, like the relationship that they all had to the grandma was like echoed in the behavior that they had in that moment of the climax, and then going forward after to the end of the movie, it just kind of felt like the family was like breaking, but then it was like pulled back together, and that was something really special to see. I really loved this movie. I thought that like a lot of like Korean Americans would find like a lot of like representation in this. I wonder if like, not necessarily like starting a farm in Arkansas, but the whole thing of like building something out of nothing for yourself. I feel like that probably echoes a lot in immigrants, and especially coming from Asia and stuff. And I also think that like we haven't mentioned like the sister at all. Like his sister was like also like she had a lot of character in her, but she was like kind of sidelined by everyone, which like again I don't want to like
have the
disparage.
smallest role.
Yeah, she had the smallest role, but like the grandma took a particular interest in the boy, even though the sister was older and smarter and very capable of herself. She like took an interest of him, which I think is like typical of grandmas, but also maybe Asian American grandmas too, or Asian grandmas too. But I think that's kind of a stereotype in some ways. But like,
I did like the scene with the daughter and her mom in like the last third when they're sitting on the floor together, and she just kind of like tells her just like how amazing she is, and that was kind of one of the bigger character moments for the daughter.
Yeah,
and I like that scene a lot.
Yeah,
yeah. I also,
it's like,
yeah.
No, go on.
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, you go.
I was gonna kind of shift a little bit. So if you wanted to say something about that, yeah.
Oh, I mean, I wasn't gonna say anything about the daughter. I guess I was just gonna go on about like something different. I guess we're both being incisive in this moment, but it's.
I was gonna bring up like the relationship with the community that they had. I thought was really interesting, and there's a lot to dig into there. Like, so I mean, it starts out with them at work at the sexing operation of the chickens, and kind of that community of Asian Americans working together. I thought there was a lot of really interesting stuff going on there, but also like at church and their interactions with the community at church, and how both the son and the daughter make a friend at this church gathering, and you eventually go over to their houses, and there's a lot of stuff there, and kind of meet their families. But yeah, I think all that
kids
stuff, and
flipping off the farmer friend in the back of the bus.
Yeah, definitely. And also that character, I forget his name, the Will Patton character, kind of the religious guy. I loved all those interactions. There was so much to read into with all of them. Like even like in that church scene, all the little interactions that they had with the local people, where it was like such an interesting like clash of culture, like two groups of people who really don't have any good understanding of the other's culture, and don't really know how to interact with each other, and especially with the two kids, like
the little boy.
The little boy,
like
the
there's
girl when she was saying like all the words,
but
in like an actually curious way.
Yeah. Like
So,
kind
like,
of,
she wasn't-
it was like
trying to be offensive or anything. She's
Yeah.
just
yeah,
like,
I mean, it was
"Is
both
this how this
offensive,
works?"
but also really cute and sweet, right? Like it was like you're being
Both
so
like, no idea
offensive,
what
but
she was
also you're
doing,
being
like-
authentic. So
Yeah.
and then the daughter like took that as like, oh, actually, you're just making syllables, but oh, actually, that was a word, and her reaction was like, wow, I said a word, and it's
Tell me.
yeah. And then
more.
the boy comes up to him and he's like, "Why is your face so flat?" And then the boy's like,
not.
"It's not." And he goes,
Oh,
"My name's
let's be
David.
friends."
What's your name?"
you want to
it's
sleep
just-
over at my
yeah.
house.
Yeah.
And then later on, I was going to bring up that scene where later on in the movie he does sleep over at his house, and it's like the parents are non-existent. They're like deadbeat parents, and they just like do whatever they want overnight. And then the dad shows up in the morning. He's like hungover and sleeping around or something, and he's just kind of like seemingly like a scumbag. But then he goes on to be like, oh yeah, the last guy there killed himself. Huh, that sucks. Well, you better help your dad on that farm. Which is like, kind of shocking for a little kid to hear probably. And then, but then later on in the movie, it's like that. That's like been echoed. Like they're aware that someone died in that house, killed themselves in the house, and they end up like cleansing the house. Like, the religious friend that we keep talking about who carries the cross around. He comes in, and he like cleanses the house, and it's. It's kind of interesting all that stuff is connected and through the community.
I spent a lot of this movie trying to figure out what time period it was in, mostly based off the community, because I was like, this is such a small town. Like, is this the like 1890? Like when is this? Because this town is so small.
They have a
I
good.
thought it was the 50s for a while. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was the 50s for the longest time. And I mean, part of that might be Arkansas, you know. But,
Right, that's what I was just gonna say. But when you read the synopsis, you said the 80s. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, there's
But
a
I
line
guess it is
right
Arkansas,
in the beginning
like,
where he's like trying to get his well situated, and the guy's like, "Good thing you're farming here because Reagan's bringing all the money to the farmers or something." So then I was like, "Oh, okay, so that's."
okay, I missed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still parts of the country that just these communities are this small. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I we haven't really said too much about the father character either, and I mean, I think there's a lot to like take in about him. You know, just I kind of agree with Sean that I don't know if he's the main character, but in some ways he is. I mean, like his whole crux of the movie is like just trying to, take care of his family and the pride that he's carrying that comes along with that, and then when it starts failing, it's like that dilemma is all on him and what he's gonna do. Like, are they gonna move back to California? Is he gonna go with them? Like, is he abandoning the family if he doesn't go? It's is he gonna kill himself like the last guy in that trailer? Like there is a lot there, and I thought Stephen Young played it really, really well. Like, I thought he was like, I'd seen him in The Walking Dead and stuff, but I haven't really seen him in too much else. And I mean, he was really good. So, cool. I mean, do you guys have anything else to add?
Thank you.
Good job, Derek.
Thank you.
Yeah, Minari. So, that's going to be out on digital rental or in theaters. So, check it out. Highly recommend that one as well.
It's actually in theaters right now. I just looked it up.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
If your theater's open and you feel safe going, I'm not there yet, but
If you're post-vax.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be. Not sure. Okay, so that leaves one more movie. It's my movie pick, and it's called Promising Young Woman. I feel like this is the most controversial of all the movies, just because it's pretty weird. It's pretty wild ride. So real quick, I'm gonna read the plot summary from Letterboxd, and let me make sure it's not too long and complicated. No, it's short. Okay, cool. A young woman haunted by a tragedy in her past takes revenge on the predatory men unlucky enough to cross her path. So, the basic premise of this movie is that Carey Mulligan is the main character, and it's alluded to her friend from college. Like, she was in medical school, and her friend was got drunk probably at a party and was taken advantage of, like, big time. It's implied, at least initially, that it was like taken advantage of, but it turns out to be like pretty bad. And then she it's implied that she committed suicide or something happened to her, and so she spends her nights like pretending to be blacked out drunk at bars and clubs. Like, she sits in corners just like being super drunk until a guy hits on her and then takes her home, and then she goes into his apartment and he starts like making the moves on this like passed out girl, and then she like tells him that she's not, she like comes out of it and she's like stone cold sober.
What was that recent J-Lo movie that everyone really liked?
Oh,
Hustlers.
Hustlers.
Kind of had a similar premise to Hustlers.
Okay. I didn't see
Me
Hustlers.
neither.
But
I mean, not really.
wasn't that like a heist movie or
That's
something?
what I thought. I haven't
Girls
seen it.
that pretending to be drunk at bars to, anyways, take advantage, but actually are sober and take advantage of the people there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of the
and-
opposite,
and-
actually. The women would go to bars and get men really, really drunk and drug men and then steal money from them.
Sounds similar to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's opposite, because it's what it is that it's like it's reversing the behavior instead of actually doing something to someone. It's like putting someone's actions against them. So Hustlers, it's like they're out getting these people, and she's tricking them, sure, but also it's like she's not actually like doing anything that they wouldn't have done to someone else. They're like predatory guys like, oh, well, I can take that girl home who's passed out in that chair. She needs a ride, and
it's like forcing them to deal with their bad intentions, like head on.
And then like the plot does evolve, I mean, we are going to do spoilers for this movie. I don't know if we should do them right off the bat, but and I guess I've already spoiled a little bit of it, but it does go a little bit further where she finds the guys who are actually like involved in what happened to her friend, and she starts like a plot to like a Kill Bill style like plot to get revenge on every single person. I mean, she doesn't actually cross anyone off a list, but it certainly feels like there could have been a list that she was crossing off of. And
I mean, they're even numbered, aren't they? Like,
yeah.
They're chapters. Yeah, there are chapters for sure. Yeah. And, it's not just the guys too. Like there was like a girl that was complicit that like denied that anything happened, and she like got revenge on her. And then there was the like dean at the school who she like confronted, and she did pretty horrible things to these people. Like, I mean, for example, like the dean, she picked up the girl's daughter, the dean's daughter, and tricked the daughter into like coming to a location with her, and then made the dean feel like that girl was like at a party like about to be taken advantage of. And like that's a pretty terrifying thing for an adult mom, of a teenager. Like, my daughter's about to be like probably like taken advantage of sexually, and it's going to be really, really bad. And it makes you really uncomfortable, but also it's kind of like throwing it back in your face a little bit of like, this happens to women all the time. Like rape culture, like this is a thing that happens in rape culture. And how are you reacting to it? Do you think this is bad? Like, did she cross a line to you? Maybe, but also like, it's also reflective of like, where would you draw the line in real life as well? This is very much a social satire. I mean, we're talking a lot of drama right now, but the movie is like pretty funny as well. Like it's all over the place tonally. And, I historically am hit or miss with movies that bounce around with tones, and this one actually really worked for me. Like I really loved how it did the tones, because there were moments that were very dramatic. There were moments that were actually like pretty scary and tense, and then there were other moments that I was like laughing pretty hard. I mean, Bo Burnham's in it, like Molly Shannon shows up, like comedians are in this movie. And Max Greenfield is in like the climax. He's just at the climax party, and his one scene is like super funny, and it's also enclosed with incredible drama and sadness. He's
the kid from Superbad, the nerd.
Yeah, McLovin is in it for sure. Yeah, McLovin. So it's funny. There's also a musical sequence with Carey Mulligan and Bo Burnham like dancing and singing like straight out of like High School Musical in a drugstore. They're just like dancing around and the lights are going crazy. It's like this movie's all over the place, but it works for me because it's a social satire. It's not like you're supposed to like be taking it with realism like the other three movies that we've talked about on this episode. This movie is very much like a caricature, and you're supposed to be like, reacting to the horrible things that are happening, but also like, it's not really about the horrible things. It's about like the reflection of them and what that means to the rest of society. So, this movie was crazy, and I definitely dug it. But what say you guys? What about you guys?
That last part you said about like kind of reflecting, like that's the most interesting part about this movie. I really liked it. Like you said, it's really easy to watch and it's really fun, and they really get into like the look and feel of the movie. Like, the music is loud, and like the thriller scenes are really like dark and grimy, and like they really get into like the genre when they're messing around with each genre that they kind of dabble in. But like the most interesting thing for me is, like you feel, because the look and style of the movie that you're watching, that like she is doing something bad when she like lures these guys in, like I think that's probably intentional. Like they're making it look like she's going to kill them or something. But like she's not really doing anything. And like it's just like such a brilliant way to tell that kind of story, because it's like those guys are so horrified because they're realizing what they were going to do.
And they kept saying the same thing. All these guys say the same thing. Like, I'm a nice guy. I wouldn't do something bad. And it's like, well, if you're a nice guy, why were you about to have sex with someone who's passed out?
Right.
Literally. Yeah. You know, so it's like the weird perception thing that people don't see themselves truly.
Yeah. And they put, like you're saying, like they picked a lot of comedic actors to play those roles. So it's like, it worked out even better. It makes those scenes so much more engaging. And so I think caricature is like that is a really good way to describe like what this movie does constantly throughout the whole thing, because it's like none of it's real, but it's like all about and addressing real things constantly, but at like a heightened state, I guess. I don't know, it's a really interesting like way to do it, and I think they nailed that style perfectly. Like it works so well, constantly. Like
I think this movie had a lot of really like thrilling plot choices that worked really well. Like while there's a lot of style, there's just like also a lot of great like twists and turns throughout the movie. One of the biggest ones I loved is like Bo Burnham's character. And they're really like building this up. Nick, you mentioned the like musical scene of them dancing in a convenience store and stuff. They really are building this up to be like a rom-com between them of sorts, like very stereotypical rom-com-y meet and developing their feelings and relationships. And I really loved the twist in this movie and how just quickly it's cut off and dropped, and she's just like, fuck you, this is over. And there's just nothing else beyond that. Like there's no rom-com ending where they even come close to getting back together, or there's any kind of redemption. It's just like is this hard stop. And usually like all rom-com relationships have that point, but then it comes back around in the climax. And
I will point out they actually kind of do that earlier on when he catches her at a bar with being taken away from a bar.
Right, that's true. That's true. They do have that
and so
rom-com-y climax.
They do play with
movie,
those tropes as well,
for sure. But yeah, when the big explosion happens, I loved that scene of them together, and just her absolutely telling him off in the most plain, blunt way, and there's just no redemption.
Yeah, and him, his reaction to it.
I think there's something deeper to that as well. Like, I mean, I think that's actually like a point of the movie in some ways, and that like, if it weren't for trauma and the terrible things that happened to her and her best friend, they would have been in a rom-com, or they would have just like gone and been a doctor and fallen in love and hopefully started a family or something. Like it would have been like a normal life, a normal movie, but instead like they had terrible things happen to them, traumatic things. No one was held accountable for those terrible things, and they were instead like victimized for the things that happened to them. And then that just causes like so much long-term damage for these people. And it happens all the time. Like this is like a thing that these things happen.
So much long-term damage for the wrong people.
Right. And it's like constantly it's, well, you don't want to ruin a young man's life for a silly mistake that he made, but instead like it's never thought about like the thing that the people whose lives are ruined for something that happened to them because of that said mistake. It paints the story in broad strokes, but I think that's like the point of the movie that they're trying to make.
Definitely. Yeah, this is definitely the most stylized movie I saw this year, I think, from what I recall. And I think like Emerald Fennell has such a unique and interesting and like precise vision for this movie. And it looks really slick. Like all the colors and the lighting and the stylized like wardrobes, and it just there's a really cool look to this movie that I really.
Did you say set design too?
Set design,
the coffee house or like her parents' home, and how domestic that looks like. Yeah, there's a lot of good
and the bar,
stuff
all
like
the
that.
bars and everywhere that she went. It was it really felt like she took so much care and put so much thought into every single aspect of this movie. The look and the feel and the tone, as well as the screenplay and everything. And I think like we've talked a little bit about it, but like the casting of the characters, I think is so smart. Casting like these kind of using the actors' previous roles and the previous characters that they have played to kind of trick your expectations for their characters in this movie, I think is so clever. And it's like in a really meta way.
What harm can McLovin actually do? You know?
Yeah, right. Exactly. McLovin, like just some like dorky kid. But yeah, exactly. How much harm can he do until he gets his hands on a out of a woman
blacked
who
out
isn't in
girl.
control of her decisions. I thought there was a lot of that kind of stuff with Schmidt and I forget his name, but the guy from Glow. Like those types of scenes are so clever. The way that they're like almost playing these previous characters that you already kind of know and already kind of have feelings about, but kind of twisting it in a really interesting way to make so many smart points and to
right. I mean,
and
like,
to say
totally,
so many interesting things about.
That's a really great point, Sean, because like we
and
know McLovin, like we know McLovin, so like seeing McLovin do something like that, you're like, but also I get it, like, yeah, he would probably, maybe. I mean, he's a nice guy, but also he's a desperate weirdo. But then like, that you mentioned Schmidt, like his, we love Schmidt, but like, and we also know that Schmidt from New Girl, that character is like supportive and he loves his friends and he's kind of a weirdo douchebag, but also he'll do anything for his friends. And then like, that plays on like, spoiler, like his best friend like kills her, he literally kills her, and then Schmidt's going, oh hey, this wasn't your fault, hey, you did nothing wrong. It's like the way he sells
such
that
a great,
is like so
in,
funny
in any other
it's like,
context.
it's so dark, but it's like hilarious, but so dark, but like it's also like
in any other context,
escape those feelings of feeling bad, because this could have happened to anyone. But great point, Sean.
Yeah, definitely.
How certain were you guys,
if you hadn't already have known Schmidt?
How certain were you guys in that scene that it wasn't going to fully happen?
I didn't think it was real until the fire pit. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
It was so shocking and such a turn on the movie. Yeah. Like I actually thought Bo Burnham was going to kick down the door and like be the rescuer, and they would get back together and it would all come full circle. Like I was just like, there's no way this is happening right now.
Yeah.
But I also thought like the next ending wasn't going to happen at all too. I definitely thought it was like going to end on that.
Yeah, just to end on a really heavy, depressing.
Yeah,
like it's all fucked. There's no fixing it. There's no revenge to be had. There's no, yeah.
Yeah,
that was an incredible scene. The way the one shot, just slowly pushing in on it, and the slow realization that she's not getting out of it, and
that was like. For how little was happening there's a lot happening to us in that scene, like watching.
I was like, do you even need to go this far, dude? Like, like, can you just hold her down for like, yeah, like you're.
Yeah.
There's a part where he
So much
like
was going through my head.
grabs his foot to like get a sharper angle, like with his knee too. It's like good, like like this guy is like a real like piece of shit, like deep down, like
Yeah, and then talk about like juxtaposition of tones, like
yeah,
almost hard cutting from that to the next morning to this like really light like Schmidt walks in and like almost kind of a typical
he does
comedic setup.
he literally
like,
does like the Schmidt thing, like from New Girl, like after he pokes her, he like does the quick like head like the she's dead.
Yeah.
Like it's like a Schmidt
Winston.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so smart.
Yeah.
So many clever bits and pieces throughout the movie. Just screwing with your expectations. Even that like the song and dance scene, like it was on one hand it was like really cute and really charming what they were doing, but at the same time it was almost a little too cute, a little too charming. The song was a little too like superficial and
Super
dumb
exaggerated.
and exaggerated. Yeah. So it, like, the writing, everything was super smart in this movie.
Super smart, really fun.
Super smart.
Yeah.
Like, just
I'm really
constantly
glad
fun.
this was a left field pick from Nick. I think you were juggling between a few different movies, Nick, and this wasn't on my radar, so it's cool that we landed on this one.
Yeah, this was a good pick. This was definitely on my radar for, I think it was supposed to come out at the beginning of the year, and they ended up pulling it because of COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's just now coming out.
Yeah, I knew I was going to pick this movie, but I definitely was pleasantly surprised. You know, I really didn't know what I was really gonna. I didn't really know what it was.
Yeah.
So
I will also say, like,
yeah, like
Kelly was kind of similar. She like read the premise of this movie and she's like, this is going to be so on the nose. Like, it's just going to be hammering you over the head with its message. And she ended up really liking it, and definitely isn't what you expect, for sure.
And if that's the kind of thing, like when you read that plot and you're like, this is not for me. It's like, I think this movie does a really good job at just like being engaging, funny, and just like quality all around. That like I could see it really pulling in people that really aren't into that kind of, whatever commentary about stuff. I don't know.
Rape.
Yeah, I mean, I can just
You can
see,
say
I can
it.
see like this movie being like people avoiding it because of what it's about,
Yeah.
But I think
Reading the synopsis.
yeah, but I think it's much more accessible than it might feel like it might be.
well, I think the ending is kind of screwy in some ways with the message, I guess, because the ending makes it feel like it's like she won, or like it's like a happy ending in some ways, like, these guys got revenge, like she accurately hit her revenge. But I mean, I think if you like really look at it, it's like, are these guys really going to get off? Are they going to really get prosecuted by this legal system that has historically protected these types of people? And I think there's been a lot of people who are kind of weirded out by that, like who have watched this movie, and but I don't know. I think movies that
I think there's a couple things you can kind of read into there. I think first of all, I don't think you're supposed to question whether or not they get off, because, and I don't think it's a mixed message either, because they're not being prosecuted for rape, or they're not being prosecuted for what they did, decades ago. They're being prosecuted for killing someone and then trying to cover up that murder. And there's almost no world where they could get off for that. It's a pretty cut and dry, like they found the burn pile. They know, and then like and then on top of that, like the tape is going to come out for everyone else. And so I guess I've heard that kind of argument before. I'm not entirely.
Also, doesn't she kind of loop in the prosecutor for that case? Like,
yeah,
kind of tipping him off about what's about to happen.
He's the one that I think went to the police.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But still, I mean, like, I don't know. I think the movie, I don't know. I think that it's like, okay, so it comes down to murder to get guys like this to get in trouble, you know, and then also like she's dead now, you know, so you know that sucks, you know what I mean? Like it's like it is like kind of tonally kind of weird with that, just in terms of like,
well, and I think,
you know,
that's like part of
it took her dying for her to get these guys in trouble, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of interesting thing about her character too, because she has an interesting character in this movie. Like, she's got a lot of different personality things, and there's that when she goes and sees Molly Shannon and stuff. You know, Molly Shannon's like trying to get her to just like stop. You know, she doesn't want like a second life ruined by this thing. Yeah, but it's like part of the thing is she's like this. You know, deep down, it's like this is her life. Like she wants nothing more, literally nothing more than to make them
like
pay
genuinely
somehow.
I think.
Yeah.
Like I think that was what the movie was trying to establish early on.
Like
she genuinely isn't seeking a better life.
Right.
You know, even though her parents and her employer and everyone around her is kind of pushing her in that direction.
Yeah.
I think genuinely this is her life, and that's all she has.
Yeah. And it's all she wants too. Yeah. Do you think she went there expecting to die?
I
think
don't.
so.
Like she was going to push them to that point no matter what, right?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I guess the
alternative.
If you want a
would be
direct
she
answer, I would say it's
carved
too
him up.
much to make that leap. You know.
Yeah.
There's, you know, handcuffing him to the bed, and
I guess that was her backup plan. Plan A
yeah, I
was
think
carving the name into the guy's chest.
yeah, I think so.
But in case that didn't work out.
She just, I think she knew the danger of
Right.
going in there, and
Yeah. What a weird, crazy movie. I like it a lot, though.
Yeah. Well, far out, guys. I think that pretty much wraps us up on this episode, though. So we talked about those 4 movies. Our next episode is going to be our top 10, where we will rank our top 10 movies of the year. You know, I think this is collectively our favorite thing we do every year. It's always a hoot. It's always a lot of fun. So yeah, we'll be doing that next week. And then after that, we will... After that, we're going to switch to a weekly show, and we're going to be we're going to be streaming every week, and I'll have some more solid details on that next episode. But yeah, we're going to be putting out weekly episodes and 1 movie per episode, and shorter episodes on YouTube and still on the podcast feed. So yeah, so stay tuned for that. So we've got some pretty exciting stuff coming up. So real quick, let's just say what was your favorite movie out of these? Well, no, we're not gonna do that because we'll see you next week with
I was gonna say,
top tens.
Yeah.
Don't want to spoil anything for y'all. So anyway, do you guys have anything else to say?
That's it.
How about in that vein, any movies that anyone still needs to see, like the biggest movie that anyone still wants to or needs to see before they do their list?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Mine is called Another Round, but I don't know if I'm going to actually get to it. It's a drinking movie that's supposed to be great. So I don't know. Shit House is another drinking movie that's supposed to be great.
Wait,
so
is
I
that
might watch both those.
the Mads Mikkelsen movie?
Yeah, it's supposed to be
Druk.
great, but yeah, again, I think I'm going to spend my next couple weeks rewatching a lot of stuff, just because there's a handful of movies where I'm like, I loved it when I first saw it, but I'm not sure how much I loved it. So,
Yeah.
you know, for me, I love movies more the more I rewatch them. So, yeah, I'm going to rewatch a few. So
Yeah, I might check out Shirley.
Nice.
I'm going to see His House and a couple others. I also haven't seen Dick Johnson is Dead.
His House. Shoot.
His House. Okay, and so with that, monthly movie dispatch signing off. Keep watching and have a great day.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.